Good
morning, everyone. This is the Human Services Committee meeting for March 22nd. It's 11:15. We're a little behind schedule, but I do encourage questions and comments from the committee. I will keep the egg timer on my desk just so we can move along. We'll hear first from Veteran Services, and we have a guest from the peer-to-peer program first. Then we'll go to Countryside Adult Home and finish up with the Warren County Department of Social Services. So, Denise, welcome.
Thank you.
And please just briefly comment on some of the attachments that you've provided. I'm ever impressed with the number of meetings, community events, and outreach that the department provides. And then you can introduce Jeremy to us.
Do we need to accept the meeting from the?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. So thank you. You want to take my job?
I'm just trying to remember what needs to happen.
Right. Do I have a motion to bring the approval of minutes to the floor? A second. All in favor of approving the minutes from the prior committee meeting, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Thank you. Privilege of the floor. Anyone from the public would like to speak? Hearing nothing, the floor is yours, Denise.
All right. So the review of outreach for my department. Again, we try to stay extensively engaged in anything that's happening within the veteran community with regards to the Veterans Benefits Administration and the Veterans Health Administration. So if I'm not able to go, Jeff is going in my place. For the most part, I always send him to anything that has regarding food based, because if it's like a luncheon or something, he's all on board. So he likes being sent to those things. So or breakfast, peer-to-peer breakfast or this past Monday, he went to that. And then anything upcoming, obviously, it changes as you see the new when I come back to committee. If anything I didn't go to that said upcoming, or I would take off the list and then add whatever new was replaced with that. Transportation is picking up as time goes on. Again, I think COVID had a huge impact on, either the veterans who were riding and are either no longer with us or are still nervous about riding in a closed vehicle. But new people are starting to ride also, new veterans who are transitioning into that time in their life when they would rather not deal with the traffic down in Albany. So it is a service that provides great care going back and forth to Albany, Stratton for their specialty care. And then moving on to, unless anybody had any questions regarding those two topics, at least outreach and transportation. Claims report. The claims report is building. It will change drastically this year with the PACT Act and all the benefits that are being unraveled for that across all eras. So you will see those claims pick up this year for sure. The impact in our office is nonstop. We're getting phone calls, walk-ins, everything. So we will see that. But again, you'll see the numbers have changed from the last time. And they're still in 2019, they're still going up, which seems a little odd, but it was because a claim was still pending from that time frame. So that's why they're still on the list. When the numbers stop growing, I'll take them off the list. But for right now, these are what the numbers are looking like.
Thank you.
Yep. And moving on, I'd like to introduce everybody to Jeremy Doers. He is the peer-to-peer Adirondack peer-to-peer coordinator, or Joseph P. Dwyer program coordinator, and he's going to give you an overview of the programs to date and a little bit about himself.
All right, so good morning, everyone.
I won't hand up for
Oh,
you.
sure,
Yeah.
thank you. I hope you don't mind if I stand.
Actually, if you could go to the podium, that would be great. Yep.
Okay, I saw this. Okay, so,
Thank you.
thank you for the invitation, everyone. My name's Jeremy Dewars. I'm local. My father was a police officer in Lake George for a long, long time when Lake had their own police department, consolidated with the county, I think in 1989, and then retired shortly thereafter. So I was a Marine for 5 years, enlisted in 1999 after a stint as a fledgling musician. I played with the Albany Symphony and the Catskill Symphony and the Utica Symphony, but I waited a lot more tables than I played music. So I was only so good. Starving artists are fun for a while, but then I joined the Marine Corps. I did 5 years. I was medically discharged in 2004 after I re-enlisted, and they found out that I have Crohn's disease, and they said they couldn't employ me anymore. And that was that. So I was a teacher for about a decade. I went to Skidmore, did my undergrad there, got a bachelor's in history and government. And then I went to Union and did my graduate work. Got a master's in history and teaching, and taught for about a decade, and then decided this past year that I wanted to do something a little different. So looked at the opportunity with the peer-to-peer and said, this is perfect. Veterans get one another. And as I started this position, it seemed rather daunting. I said, where do we start? What do we do? And the mission is to help veterans. And it sounds quite broad, but it is. Now, that means that I consider myself, I got out of the Marine Corps as a sergeant, and I consider myself to be like a corporal. I'm on the ground, literally going door to door. And I've kind of informed everybody that the more I go on, the more I dig, the more I find. There's quite a few veterans in need throughout both Warren and Washington County. They're very reluctant to ask for help, some of them. Some don't want anything to do with the VA. Many of the things that they feel they perceive about the Veterans Administration is either learned from an Oliver Stone film or perhaps Scuttlebutt. And I think the VA has done a tremendous job over the last decade or so of really rebranding itself and making sure that they're, attending to the needs of the veterans. So the job entails this. So what I do is I've kind of planned out several types of goals. I've got long-term goals, mid-range goals, and short-term goals. Short-term goals are smaller events. I'll pop into a Warren or Washington County Stewart's and say, hey, I'm buying you coffee, and I'll be there from 6 to 11, buy you coffee and a donut, coffee and a breakfast sandwich. And that usually prompts the veterans to come over and say, hey, thank you. And then I get to tell them about the program. I give them a flyer, give them a business card. And then what happens following after that is I get references. They say, oh, I know this veteran here. I know this veteran here. And because staffing the program is not too much of a challenge, I would say, and this is not meant to be disparaging in any way toward anybody, but I think the positions need to be filled by veterans, simply because the peer-to-peer works best. Veterans get along with one another quite easily, and we're growing pretty much on a weekly basis. However, that requires me to be on the road even more, which is a good thing. It's a great thing, but it's a lot of ground to cover. So on a daily basis, sometimes I'll get a call from veterans that need a ride to a local appointment. Right. And usually there's a shuttle going from one place to another, but a lot of times they call me because they kind of want to chat and hear about what programs we have going on. Then I've had veterans who have come to me that are facing eviction. So that, had its own challenges involved with that. I have a veteran in northern Washington County that just got out of prison after 25 years. And they're, they don't have a social security card. They don't have their birth certificate. They don't have their DD-214. So as you can see, it's a broad range of problems that come to me, and certainly not all of them I can deal with. So the reality is I have to understand all of the different entities and different organizations out there that help veterans. Some services overlap. Some services are very specific to certain circumstances. And that's been, believe it or not, the biggest challenge is knowing who to call, when to call them, what buttons to push. And I'm learning as I go, but I've made some connections. As a matter of fact, Amy Hughes, who was the coordinator of the Saratoga County peer-to-peer for over a decade, I believe, her and I have developed quite a good working relationship. And now the new coordinator, Erin Cassidy, she's coming for a tour of SUNY Adirondack, where my office is housed. We're going to be collaborating. I'd heard in the past that there was a bit of territorial disputes about the program. As far as I'm concerned, if we're helping vets, it's okay. I don't mind working with Saratoga County. I know Essex County has some veterans up there, but again, it takes time. These relationships that we develop with these veterans takes time to develop, because some just don't trust, especially when I come showing up in my sweater vest and tie. They're wondering what I want. Is there fine print? Is there something that, and I'm like, no, please, I'm here, literally here to help. So short-term goals, smaller events, coffee days, breakfast at Carrie's Northway Diner. We just established a relationship with the Argyle Auction Barn. We're going to do a breakfast out there as well. I've spoke with Tom Thornson, who's the Republican committee leader up in Chestertown. We're going to be working up at OP Fredericks to do some veterans events up there. So those are the short-term goals. Midterm goals, major events, right? So we've already established an agreement with Camp Chinjacook for Memorial Day weekend for a veterans getaway for their families. And we've got writing therapists coming to work with veterans specifically, and then families of veterans, and then children of veterans. They've got some great programs lined up. We've got scuba diving, there's boating, there's ropes course. So it's Friday at noon till Sunday at noon. Camp Chinjacook is very excited about establishing this as a year after year program. We also have established an event at Camp Weowaka for a female veterans retreat. That's going to be published pretty soon. Another incentive I've created for veterans is I've purchased a number of 3-month memberships to the YMCA in both Glens Falls and out in Greenwich. And I've told veterans, I'm like, you come to 3 of my events, here's 3 months at the YMCA. So this does multiple things, right? So it gets them to, interact with other veterans, but they also get an opportunity for health and wellness over at the local YMCA. Now, many of them are saying, well, I got silver sneakers. Well, there's, we see a bit of a divide. I've also established a relationship with the Vietnam Veterans Association. They had their event last night at Bean's Country Store. Sam Hall, I think, is quite pleased because I actually brought in another member who's going to be joining. As I scour the ground, I'm finding that, obviously different veterans of different generations have different needs. So for some folks, the YMCA is not necessarily the incentive they're looking for. So we're finding out what levers and what buttons to push. Long-term goals, I've spoken with Jim LaFar, I'm trying to set up something with the DA and the judges to see if we can set up a veterans court. We had an instance just recently where we had a veteran suffering from traumatic brain injury, PTSD, who had an armed standoff with the police. He is now in a treatment center and actually doing quite well. But we're finding that the Buffalo Veterans Court has a very good approach to how to respond to veterans, kind of giving a heads up to the police that show up. If you show up to a combat veteran's door, guns a-blazing, you might get some back. And many times those veterans that you're seizing upon are better trained than the police. So that's the stuff we want to avoid, because now this poor young man, when he came to me, he was petrified about going to prison. And when he told me the circumstances that kind of led up to where, you understand where it came from, but many of these veterans, they're so well programmed. They're really dealing psychologically with certain things. They can't play chess anymore, if that makes sense. Thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead has become very difficult. So that's what I'm trying to establish. And another long-term goal is establishing another homeless veteran shelter out in Washington County. I know they don't have anything like that. I know this is Warren County. We've got the Vets House, and we have the Homeless Veterans Association that has helped us with some certain things. But these are long-term goals that I have, on the horizon. As we can see from the data that I'm pushing forth to the state, participation has increased dramatically. Word is getting out. I'm creating relationships with different publications. Not everybody has internet. Not everybody has Facebook. It's certainly easy to get the word out that way, but it's not necessarily that effective. So there's multiple, we'll say, projects going on at once. Been a bit of a daunting task, but it's been great work and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So if anybody has any questions, throw it to the floor.
Jeremy, thank you very much.
Of course.
Chairman, I just wanted to mention also, I didn't hear Jeremy mention this, but once in a while I do sit in on the virtual Dwyer meetings that happen for the whole state.
Sure.
Their grant money distributed per county has not changed since 2012. And they are looking to lobby for a greater grant.
One thing,
Yeah.
just to piggyback on.
Okay.
Sorry to take-
No, if you want to finish it, go ahead.
So I've taken a couple trips down to Albany to speak with the state legislators, and great response. They love the work that we do because it really is good work. It's daunting work, but it's good work. And Gavin Walters, who is the coordinator of the Ulster County Dwyer program, him and I have developed a close relationship. We work together quite frequently. And every time he goes down to Albany to speak on behalf of the program, he says, "Hey, can you come with me?" So now a byproduct of that is we've established relationships with these legislators across the state. But at the last, I want to say in January, there was a French filmmaker who happened to come along. This is kind of wild. He's making a documentary about veterans. So he asked me, he heard me speak, and he asked me if he could piggyback along with me as on my travels to interview veterans. Now, this is a tremendous opportunity simply because he's trying to pitch this documentary to Netflix, to HBO. It's all self-financed, and it went so well. He was here at the beginning of March. He's coming back April 3rd and 4th. Speaking of that, just came up with something. I'm sorry about that. He's coming back April 3rd and 4th, and then he's coming again. Mr. Dickinson, how are you?
Morning. Good.
Morning. He's coming back in April. He's coming back in May and coming back in June. We can only conduct about 3 interviews per day. Because the equipment that he carries with him and the setup, we're conducting some of the interviews in people's homes, in veterans' homes. Some of them we're conducting on campus. So it's a tremendous opportunity. So if anyone knows of any veterans who want to tell their story, it's apolitical. He's not going in with an agenda. Because he's from another country, he really is just curious about American veterans. So he's gotten a bit of taste of everything. So he had an opportunity to speak with some Vietnam veterans. He's had an opportunity to speak with some Afghanistan veterans and Iraq War veterans. And so now the number of veterans that want to participate in the project, they're coming out of everywhere and they want to tell their story. So if anybody happens to know anyone, please get a hold of me. This is all coming from the work down at the legislature. I think we made a good pitch for some modifications to the amount of money going to the program because there's a lot of good work going on. If the budget were to increase, it would allow me to increase my staff members and different types of events. It's nice because we've had some rollover and we've been very smart with our money up to this point, but more money is always good. So, so please, if anybody has any questions or would like to meet with me personally or knows of a veteran, please grab a flyer or just, can speak with me anytime.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. That would be,
Thanks, Denise.
yes, thank you.
Be well.
We're all.
I'm sorry.
Well, we still have veteran service up here. So just want to advertise an event that's coming up on April 19th, Wednesday at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall Chester Gymnasium. And this is for doggy paddle for veterans. And it's by Jimmy Thomas, who went from New York to Florida by kayak. Back by bicycle. And it's to help raise awareness for veterans in need of service dogs.
If that is,
I'm going to be at a table up there.
and I will also.
So it'll be up there. It's great opportunity. Again, I wish I had a couple of clones if it weren't against my religion. So just multiply what we're doing. Because as I said, the more I dig, the more I find. And there's some veterans that are really suffering that have no desire to ask for help. There's too much pride involved, and there's a bit of skepticism as well. So please let them know that I'm really here to help. Certainly can't solve all the problems, but if I can't solve it, I'll find someone who can.
I know.
Thank you. Anyone else? Vice Bruno.
Sounds like our gain was the Marine Corps' loss. It sounds like Jeremy he has a lot of energy, and I like what I heard. Sounds like setting up a great program or working. So thank you, Jeremy.
Oh, listen, I truly feel that God has blessed me to do this work. I work tirelessly at it. My phone's always available to veterans. I lost two buddies of mine in two different circumstances. One of my buddies, Sergeant Groff, right? He was a hard Sergeant Marine, loved the Marine Corps, and everything that you hear bad about military marriage and all this stuff, it just went bad. And he was injured. He was medically discharged, and it was crushing for him. And he wound up taking his own life. And it bothered all of us because we kind of came together afterwards and said, oh, what could we have done? We had a tremendous amount of guilt. And you can't help but think to yourself, would have just called him, would have just texted him. You know, he wasn't on Facebook or anything. And then my other buddy, Gunnery Sergeant Duguid, he was awesome. He was an outstanding Marine. He did 22 years, and again, another, failed military marriage, which happens quite frequently. And he literally drank himself to death, and they didn't find him until 4 days after he had passed. That it choked me up, and it bothered me because I'm like, if there's something I can do to prevent that from happening in the area that I cover, I will do anything at any hour. So please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Good morning, Amy. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Happy belated St. Patrick's Day.
I have an additional action item that I wasn't able to get onto the agenda because it came to my attention
Okay.
after they were due. It'll be just a quick.
Need one too, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a priest tell me once that PTSD was a doctor. You know, you were man.
Room's a little full today.
I said, you learn the military, there's illegal duty.
Yeah.
Here. Second nature.
Right.
So let's get to the agenda item that is on our agenda. The request number 1, please, Amy.
This request is to amend the agreement that we have with Omnicare Pharmacy. I want to increase the annual rate to $2,000 per year with a do not exceed of $6,000. The rationale is we do have to provide some medications that aren't uncovered by the insurances, that they are the responsibility of the facility. Unfortunately, what we've seen across the board with everything in pharmaceuticals is gone through the roof, is what we had budgeted, what our agreement was, will not cover our bills. So that's why nothing is changing about the agreement other than the amount.
Motion to bring that to the floor, please. Supervisor Tarasi and Supervisor Bruno in a second. Any discussion or questions for Amy? Hearing nothing, I will call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. We'll move on to the handout that Amy just gave us, a request, and if you could explain that to us, please.
This is a request to amend the resolution 142 of 2023. What I brought to committee last month, the do not exceed amount for Jennifer Linehan was calculated for 1 year versus 18 months like it should be. So we need to increase from 42.24 to 63.66.
Motion to bring that to the floor. Supervisor Tarasi and Supervisor Runyon on the second. Questions or comments? Hearing nothing, I will call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? So moved. Thank you. Anything else that you'd like to go through, Amy? Some of your numbers or that type of stuff?
So the census report says we have 27 residents, but since we had our agendas due, we actually have admitted, so we have 28. And the overtime is coming down, and that's due mostly to the flexibility of the staff. So, hopefully.
Any other questions from committee members or from supervisors in the audience?
How's the recontract?
Oh, yeah, slow. Not the most patient person in the whole wide world, so maybe that's why it seems slow, but they're saying maybe within 3 to 4 weeks, we will have the one wing done and we will evacuate and we'll move them and we'll start the next. Hopefully, the talk that I'm hearing is that they're getting all the, kind of figuring out all the problems on this wing. And so when they move on to the next one, it should be a faster process.
Anyone else? Thank you, Amy. Have a good day.
Have a nice day.
Thanks, Amy.
Good morning, Chris.
Morning.
If you could take us through, I think you've got six requests. If you could do those individually, unless there are any that might be able to be batched, and I'll leave that up to the committee to decide. So request number 1, please.
Sure. On our action agenda, we have several new business items here, mostly related to personnel. The first one is an intent to fill a position of intake clerk 4 in our reception unit. This is for SNAP intake. Base salary is $38,447. This is vacant due to a promotion effective March 13th. Each of these positions located in reception is assigned to a specific eligibility unit. Intake duties for the temporary assistance, supplemental nutrition assistance program, home energy assistance program, and Medicaid units are essential to the workflow and workloads of the respective units within USS.
Motion to bring request number 1, Supervisor Frazier and Supervisor Smith on the second. Any discussion or questions? I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Request number 2, please, Chris.
That's a notice of intent to fill position in intake clerk number 7 in the reception unit. This is Medicaid. Base salary again is $38,447. This is vacant due to a promotion as well.
Motion to Supervisor Smith and Supervisor Frazier in a second. Questions or comments? I will call the question. All in favor of approval of request number 2, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. On to request number 3, please, Chris.
Number 3 is again a notice of intent to fill. This is for the position of social service investigator number 3. This is an applaud unit. Base salary is $48,324. This is vacant due to a promotion as well. Fraud unit consists of 1 investigator, 1 senior investigator, and 1 senior account clerk.
Motion to bring that to the floor. Supervisor Smith. Do I have a second? Supervisor Rankin, thank you. Questions or comments? Okay, we'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Request number 4, please.
This is a notice of intent to fill as well. This is for position of caseworker 36 in the Child Protective Services unit. Base salary is $54,061. This is due to a resignation that was effective March 10th. Currently, caseloads are increasing in this unit. And there's demand of vacant positions to be filled as soon as possible so we can get people in training and get them on caseloads.
Supervisor Smith and Supervisor Frazier on the second. Questions or comments? I'll call the question. All in favor of approval of request number 4, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. On to request number 5, please, Chris.
Number 5 is a notice of intent to fill position of caseworker 38 in the CPS unit. Again, the base salary is $54,061. This is due to a resignation effective March 22nd.
Motion to bring that to the floor, Supervisor Bruno and Supervisor Smith on the second. Questions or comments for Chris? Hearing nothing, I'll call the question. All in favor of approving request number 5? Any opposed? So moved. Flip the page and we're on to request number 6, please.
The last one I have here is a notice of intent to fill as well. This is for position of support investigator number 5. This is a child support enforcement. His salary is $44,729. This was due to a promotion effective April 3rd. Vacancy is a backfill resulting from 2 consecutive promotions within the child support unit.
Motion to bring that to the floor, please. Supervisor Runyon, Supervisor Bruno on the second. Thank you. Questions, comments? Hearing nothing, I will call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? So moved. Discussion items, please, Chris.
I previously distributed a report of activities and updates via email. That was last week. The other item that we have is we had a referral from the ARPA Advisory Committee in regards to doing an update on the homeless issue in Warren County and how it's being addressed through DSS. I did send out a report on Sunday to all the members and board advisors and to the county administrator outlining our efforts and also including some specific information in regards to homelessness and our activities after hours as well. And
I would encourage everyone to read that. Unlike the 5-year work plan that Chris submitted to us, it's not 134 pages, but it is a lot of good information and relevant to, I think, a lot of questions and conversations that we've had as a board regarding the issue of homelessness and what role the county Department of Social Services plays in that continuum of care. So thank you.
Any questions or concerns about any of that, please feel free to get a hold of me. If I can't answer any questions, I will contact my deputy commissioner, Christina Mastriani, who really is working hard on this issue.
Right. In fact, refer her office. Julie, do you have a finance report for us that you'd like to run through?
It's the first one I've run for 2023, so January and February. And I have, he's been at the point where we're pretty much on target where we need to. In both expenses, January revenue was really low, but it's picking up until February and so far in March. So, wow. Then overtime, again, we're trying to keep it down as well. We've offered to a lot of our case workers who are doing CPF phone call to try to help with those costs as well.
Yep. Any other questions for either Chris or for Julie? Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, Julie and Chris, thank you for all you're doing. And Chris, that was a rather long report. I'm glad you emailed me so I could have the pleasure of getting to it slowly. But on the resignations, we happen to get an exit interview on any of those by any chance?
Everyone who does resign is referred to Human Resources to do a exit interview if they'd like to do one. Occasionally we do get feedback, but I haven't heard any feedback from these two individuals.
All right, I'll touch base with HR. I'm just curious, why we had to, because we were doing so well there, and then
Yeah, I think.
Well, but you had a lot of promotions here, which is good, and moving up. But the 2 resignations, I always like to know, to see where we can better ourselves.
Those were both in our Child Protective Services unit, which is a very difficult unit to work in. And sometimes people do find out after working in that unit for a while that it's not for them. So they look to do something else that might be related, but not necessarily doing investigations. We find that to be quite often a common reason why people do leave, because it's pretty involved work and it also is emotionally taxing.
I mean, I imagine it can burn you out quicker than a lot of, I mean, that mental stress is, I understand. And the other thing I'd like to bring up, I really thank you for trying to keep that overtime, and I do believe that a comp time is a nice way of doing it. I mean, the overtime is nice for a little bit more money, but you actually get, you know, more taxes and that taken out. So this gives them, you know, some more quality time, which gives them a chance to maybe unwind and take. So I like that idea. So thank you for that approach. I'm glad that's working out well too. And all your hard work.
Supervisor Leggett? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Earlier today at the criminal justice, the probation talked about having a person in detention, and that's paid by DSS. Does that show up on your reports? Is this part of the state? Training, you think?
On that report, yes.
Oh, okay. And it shows up under, I see like juvenile delinquent care, state training schools. Is it one of those?
State training school.
State training schools, okay, where we have $350,000 budgeted and, yeah, and those.
And I don't think it'll be enough. The cost went from, I had budgeted, it was almost $900 a day. And I had budgeted $1,000 a day for 2023. And we have found out it's almost doubled. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that we don't have a lot of movement there. If anybody going in, we can just keep our fingers crossed for now. I mean, I thought 350,000 was a good budget until the rates went way up. Wow.
But I thought I heard this morning that was reimbursed by the state, is it?
I haven't heard that. I hope so.
Okay.
I really hope so.
We get retro bills on those as well as they adjust rates back. We just got one from 2016. So back in effect as well. That means that as we go forward, we'll start getting some probably from 2017, 2018. So these things sneak up on us. They will retroly approve increases without us even.
Anyone else? I'd just like to, I know that you've had or will soon have 3 individuals retiring from the department, and please extend our heartfelt thanks to them. I know that they were longtime employees and very valuable to the operation. So extend our appreciation to them too.
We'll also probably get some stuff out there on social media through Don Lehman as well. Showing just the type of work they've done and what kind of exemplary employees they've been for many years. One of them has been here for almost 34 years.
Super. Thanks. Motion to adjourn. All in favor of adjournment? Thank you. My apologies to the